Howdy, everybody. One thing I always like doing in sandbox games is making things the game isn't necessarily meant to have. For Super Mario Maker 2, I've made stuff like roller coasters, towns, space missions, and other various kinds of things that aren't very typical of Mario games. Though I realized that I was missing something. Fishing. As my username suggests, I've always rather liked fishing, so to not have it in Super Mario Maker 2 made my course spot feel kinda empty. So naturally I had to make a fishing level. And since I know I'm not the only aspiring angler out there who plays Super Mario Maker, I decided to share some of the techniques I used to make my level here on YouTube with you in order for you guys to copy or build on some of my work. But before we get into the video, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, and you can also turn on notifications to keep up with more content from the Mario universe. Now let's get fishing. Start, I decided to see if anyone else made a fishing level, so I searched it on YouTube and found a video by Blue Television Games that had an interesting fishing level. I wasn't too big on his level design, however, because it seemed repetitive and not very different between stages. So to begin, I recreated the setup they had in order to modify it. So while the hooking technique by using the on button was interesting, it seemed a bit too easy. After a few scrap methods I used of lifting Galoombas out of the water, I decided to go for a bob-omb instead, as well as an explodable screen block to make the level flow more smoothly. After I added the bob-omb, I realized the lift was not going to work for what I wanted to do, so I decided to use a conveyor belt instead to see what I could make with it. Though it didn't seem to work, so I started experimenting with seesaws instead. I ended up using the seesaw for a different part of the level later on, so I decided to use something else for the bob. After a while, I came up with the idea I used for the first section, using P-blocks and note blocks. It was way too easy at first, however, so I decided to make it more challenging by adding the note block onto a track. After that, and a few more finishing touches, I was finished. So I decided to move on to Area 2. I knew for the second area that it would have to be different from the first, so I decided to change just what happened when you press the on-off block. So after recreating the fishing rod, I started to work on the fishing. The mechanism I came up with for after you press the on-off block this time was able to be used multiple times, as it is slightly more difficult than the first stage. Ultimately, my second fishing contraption ended up with a muncher moving some springs out of the way to let a spike ball activate some invisible blocks to let you move on to the next area. After some final tweaking and a short dancing break, I was ready to move on to the third area. Once I got to the third area, I knew right away I wanted it to be a boss area. So I tried adding Bowser underwater and using the on-off block to trigger spike balls to fall on him. This wasn't very fun, however, because it was slow and you could just leave the on-off block off and it would eventually kill Bowser. But there's no reason not to wait like that, because there's no challenge. So I decided to change it up a little. To make it more challenging, I put Bowser on land so you had to wait for the spike balls to destroy him like before, but now you have to dodge his fire. After some more tweaking, I finished that area and moved on to the flag. For the flag, I decided to put a random fish troll inside of the square tracks, which you can avoid now that you've watched the video. I also put 3 1-ups right below the flagpoles, so make sure to get those too. After I finished all the areas, I went back and fixed some of the level as well as the auto-scrolling. I also added coins to show what the challenge the areas offered, the timing, aim, and weight sections. After I did all that, it was time for my final test playthrough. So there you have it. That's how I made my fishing level in Super Mario Maker 2. If you want to play the level, you can use the course ID I put on the screen during the playthrough. Before you go, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it or found it helpful, and don't forget to subscribe either so you won't miss out on my future videos. See you next time!